This is gonna be fine. This is gonna be so good. Welcome to Looks Unfiltered, Season 2, Episode 1. We're back! We're back. Season 2 of Looks Unfiltered feels more sure. You know? More sure of what I want to do, more sure of where I want to go. This season is all about boundaries, as per usual. It's still about knowing who you are, figuring that out, and still about choosing yourself in every decision that you make. But now it's also about alignment. We're going to follow through. We're going to make sure that we are going places and doing things we want to do. We want to make choices that actually match the life we want to live, and not the life that you think that you have to live, or the life that you think that you should want. Last year tested me. I'm recording this on the last day of 2025. And you're going to be hearing this on the first day of 2026. I had a lot of things that I worked so hard for, and things that I truly felt and believed were meant for me. My light just came below. We're in the red zone. 2 moments.
A few moments later.
That looks nice. There we go. Okay. Hey, editing Lux here. I just want to put in a little trauma warning, trigger warning. This story does contain stories of assault, and so we want to talk about it respectfully. But if you don't want to hear about it, skip to the end of the story, and I'll put the time mark here. I, 21F, have a fiance, Lee, 24M, who I consider jealous. He's probably the only deal breaker in my opinion. Beyond the big friends we both hang out with, he doesn't like me spending time with men. Now, I'm not a woman with many friends, either male or female. I have one girlfriend who's studying medicine and is always busy, and I can practically count my guy friends on one hand. I'm not the type of person who goes to clubs, drinks excessively, or goes out every day and night. I consider myself very reserved. I usually prefer to be at home, watching a series, playing games on my PC, or be on calls with small groups of friends that he's in. Lee doesn't have any female friends. He's told me about acquaintances, but he doesn't hang out with them. If he did, I wouldn't have a problem with it since I trust my partner. Otherwise, I wouldn't have started dating him at all. He doesn't have a large number of male friends either. He just has one, if not more. He's just reserved like I am. He went to Europe for the holidays with his family, and I stayed in my town because I had to work both December 25th and January 1st. I needed the extra payment. Same girl. Now, on to the main story. I'm dreading the next few days, December 31st and January 1st. A year ago, I was assaulted by a distant relative, and although I can cope with the trauma, the closer the dates get, the worse I feel. I don't want to live. Baby girl. I relive the memories over and over. A friend who knows what I went through. Lee doesn't approve of our friendship because, according to him, he has ulterior motives, which I know he doesn't. Invited me to a small party. Everyone in that circle is a D&D nerd. So you guys can imagine, they aren't that messy or disruptive. To clear my head and put my mind at ease that nothing would happen to me again this New Year's Eve. I told my parents about this a few days ago, and they both disagree that a woman and a man can't go out alone when one of them is in a relationship, that it's disrespectful, among other things. I'm not interested in being unfaithful. I'm not interested in open relationships or anything like that. I'm not going in with the intention of sleeping around. I woke up sad a few days ago, and I told my fiance about the small argument I had with my parents. I didn't like my parents' response, which I consider outdated and conservative, and I liked my fiance's response even less. We've been arguing since I told him last week. He's asking if he's ever disrespected me, so why am I doing that to him? I haven't done anything at all. He says that you can't go out with people of the opposite sex while in a relationship, except for family, among other things. It makes me question what my life will be after we get married. If I won't even be able to go out. I knew a few years ago when we started dating that he was jealous. His past relationships ended badly, and he's been cheated on or lied to in serious ways. But that doesn't justify this jealousy. An ex-boyfriend cheated on me too, and it hurt, but it didn't mean that my future relationships would end up the same. So, am I the asshole? Girl, you're not the asshole. You've never been the asshole. And I can appreciate that this sounds, specifically by the way that this is written, that this is a person whose English isn't their first language, which also leads me to believe that the culture is going to be different than mine. And I need to obviously honor that. But at 21 years old, one, you shouldn't be getting married. And that is a very stark opinion of mine, and I stand by it. At 21 years old, you are basically a child. Your frontal lobe has not fully developed. You have not lived anything. You have nothing to bring to a relationship in such an ordeal that marriage is. You haven't learned anything. You haven't been able to go through anything yet. And sure, being in a relationship is fine at 21 years old, and it's all well and good, but you don't need that. You need to live. You need to go out and explore. You need to play D&D. You need to make friends. This isn't about jealousy. This is about control. Right? And I think there's a difference between discomfort and control. Discomfort is your intuition saying, hey, this doesn't feel right. We need to talk about it, which I think is what she was experiencing, right? And the thing is, control is rooted in fear. Simple as that. Fear of losing something, someone, fear because things have gone wrong before. Clearly, they've been cheated on, they've been lied to. And fear that says, if I can control this, I'll be safe. And a lot of neurodivergent people fall into this kind of control patterns, I find, because predictability helps with safety. And it means that if A leads to B leads to C, then nothing can surprise me. And I'm so guilty of this. I will spend hours in my head going through scripting conversations that I'm going to have, or wanting to be able to predict everything that's going to happen. And unfortunately, that's not how it works, because people will surprise you and people will say things that you didn't plan for. And then that will throw you for a loop. And unfortunately, that predictability isn't safety. And it's also exhausting. It's trying to map out every conversation, every outcome, every emotional response, and deciding how other people feel for them before you even let them decide how they feel. And I think neurodivergent people especially lose so much energy doing that, because it's constantly going up in our heads, right? And the jealousy in this story isn't the bad in itself, right? Sorry. Jealousy can be a clarity tool. It brings up wounds. It brings up insecurities, that not good enough feeling, right? And in this situation, he goes, I don't want you to go out because I've been cheated on. That has nothing to do with her. That's everything about his wounds, right? So in that moment, it would be, hey, I'm not going to do that to you. I have not shown you any behaviors that will indicate that will happen. I have not communicated to you in a way that feels like this is something that's going to happen. And that reassurance should be enough, right? And then that person can take your reassurance and work on themselves and soothe themselves. Unfortunately, this doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. Personally, as a polyamorous person, I've felt jealousy so many times. I have a not good enough wound that gets constantly activated anytime anybody has a new partner, because I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not good enough? What do you mean there's something better than me out there? What do you mean you could possibly have another relationship that is more fulfilling or just as fulfilling as ours? And what do you mean you need that? Meanwhile, I want those things. So how hypocritical, right? But it still needs to be addressed as a team. It needs to be addressed together. This isn't me versus you. This is us versus the jealousy. It's us versus my wound, so that we can tackle it together. not against each other. Jealousy becomes manipulative when it's used to dictate somebody else's behavior. When your partner knows that expressing your jealousy will make you shrink, will make you cancel plans, will make you abandon yourself to soothe them, that's when jealousy stops being vulnerability and becomes control. A lot of people confuse boundaries and rules. Boundaries are rules for yourself. Rules are about controlling other people. I don't want to date somebody who does drugs. That's a boundary. That means that you leave if that boundary is crossed. I don't want you to go out. I don't want you to see these people. That's not a boundary. That's control. Something I've noticed again and again and again is how certain people... Something I've noticed again and again is how certain people always seem to struggle on big days. Have you noticed that? Some of your partners? On your birthday, on holidays, on New Year's Eve, on your graduation, on the day you get a promotion. If it happens once, fine. That happens. People go through things. But if it's every single time that you're excited about something and then they have something that comes up, that's not a coincidence. That's shrinking someone's world. It limits their joy. It reduces their social circle. It makes their life smaller. That isn't love. That's control, and you deserve better. Last year, I overrode my own needs constantly, despite preaching about boundaries. I pushed my musical project forward even when my body was screaming at me to stop. I mean, you remember I had to be on vocal rest and not talk for 3 months. I ignored my health. I saw my body shut down. I was burnt out and I was forced into stillness. My body always reacts when something isn't aligned anymore. And it's been like that since I was so little. I also ignored a lot of red flags in people because they were nice to me. Or because they weren't like that to me. Which makes my skin crawl now that I look at everything in hindsight. I let things slide that I normally wouldn't. And the universe said, this isn't aligned. We're not doing that. And the way I had to walk away was painful because I was stubborn, right? I wanted to fix things. I wanted to push through. I wanted to make sure that it worked, that all the effort that I'd put in worked. But sometimes things not being aligned means that you have to leave because you're not worth being in places where cruelty is thrown at you, where untruths are said, and where you're not defended by people who said that they were allies. I learned that I need to surround myself by people who will stand up for me in the face of injustice. Silence is a choice. If someone checks out and says, it didn't happen to me, so it's fine, I'll remove myself. I will not be spoken to like someone speaks to a child they don't like. I'm not going to be belittled. And I will not accept narratives that paint me like a villain when the accountability is absent. Sometimes people lock themselves in their stories where they're right and you're wrong. And you can't change that. That's their reality. It's theirs and mine is mine. My boundary is leaving. Consistency isn't about showing up 100% every day, right? I think consistency is going to be my mantra for 2026. It's unrealistic to show up at 100% every day when you don't feel 100% every day. A lot of neurodivergent people suffer from something called a dynamic disability, which means that some days we can do the work of 10 men in 2 hours and it's going to be great, but the next 3 days we're going to be in bed and we won't be able to get up to pee. So, if you give, though, on the day you can't get up and you only go to pee, and you decide to do something for yourself, like a small act of kindness or self-care, even if you do that thing at 1%, you've given what you had to give that day, which was 100% of what you had to give. And that's consistency. That's building a system around your needs, around your brain, instead of forcing yourself into these rigid rules and routines that don't work with you and that set you up for failure. We don't want to be set up for failure because that's where you're more likely to stop what you even wanted to do. What I do, and what seems to be working for me, is creating a menu instead of a to-do list. Menu that I can choose for high energy days, for low energy days, for no energy days. And it removes that shame, right? Because I'm picking from a menu. I'm still doing something for me. I'm still taking some sort of box. Not that you have to take a box every day. I don't think that's true. But the most important part is that it removes the shame. I think a lot of us are stuck in these inability to follow a routine because that's not how our brain works, because we are so dynamic that the rules are so rigid that we are set up to fail. And when we fail, we feel shame. If you remove that shame and create the systems that work with your mind, it's become so much easier. For example, I am very prone to losing things. So I don't have one of something. I have one of that thing in each room, and it's not allowed to leave that room. For example, I have a pair of scissors, right? I have this identical pair of scissors in every room of the house, and it's not allowed to move because if it moves, then it's in the wrong room. And I've reorganized my house this year and removed the typicality of what my house is supposed to be, right? I didn't understand why I had to have a living room when I'm a bedroom kid. I don't use my living room, so it becomes an empty space. So what I have is a room for living. I have a room to get ready in. I have a room to work in, and then I have a bathroom and a kitchen. And all of those things really helped me utilize the space I had in a way that felt good to me. So it's fine that I have duplicates of everything, but at least I know that I have one of what I need in each room and I'm not going to lose it. And that removes the ADHD tax of constantly having to rebuy something that I've lost and put in a safe place. If you're like me and sometimes you only think of doing something at a weird space, for example, if you only think about putting your deodorant on when you're making coffee, put your deodorant next to your coffee. It sounds weird and like, why would that be there, right? The normies wouldn't believe that it should be there. However, you're not normal. Neither am I. And who cares that your deodorant is next to your coffee if that means that you're putting deodorant on in the morning? You know what I mean? We're talking about creating practical tools to help you be your best you. So, look, if you're feeling guilty about wanting this autonomy or wanting something that people around you think is weird or not good, or they keep trying to put these rules on you, ask yourself, what is true? What is a fact? And what am I assuming? What am I predicting, right? The same thing that we go back to this jealousy. What is actually a fact? Is this person cheating on me? Or is the potential there? What do I know? How do they treat me? How do they speak to me? How have they spoken to me? What has brought me to that conclusion? If it's only feelings, feelings are not facts, right? We want things to feel true, but we don't know that they're true yet. So we assume, we predict, we create all of these narratives, and our brains love to create a pattern, right? We love to see things when they're not there because we can connect the dots. And as neurotypical people, we do this even more. So what we want to do is really slow down and make sure we understand what is fact and what is feeling. And then once you've understood that, ask yourself, am I choosing this because I want to do this or because I'm uncomfortable with someone else's discomfort and I need to fix that? Because I struggle with that a lot. Discomfort isn't dangerous, right? But it feels like, oh my God, this needs to stop. Like if I see a friend crying, my immediate reaction is discomfort, right? We don't like seeing the people we love uncomfortable. So we want to fix it. And a lot of the times we reach to solution rather than just reception. We need to hold people in their feelings because maybe they have already got all the answers that they need. Maybe they already know what they want to do. Maybe they just need to fall apart for a minute. And I think that I'm guilty of this. I will run to solution because I like to be able to fix things for people. One, because I have a legacy of needing to be indispensable to be loved. But two, I also don't like the discomfort. And if I have a solution, I will bring it to that person. But not everybody wants that. So again, that's where you go back to asking yourself, am I doing this because I want to do it? Or am I doing it because I want the discomfort to stop? And you just need to remember that discomfort isn't danger and guilt isn't truth. Your intuition will whisper, right, before it'll scream. But it'll scream when you're not doing something right. And not doing something right isn't not like doing what you're told, but if you're not aligned, if you're not following what you actually want, and you're just going through and going to someone else, it'll tell you. You just got to listen. So, closing this off, this little one shot for us. This year is going to be about safety. It's about choosing myself sooner. It's about building a life that holds me, letting myself be aligned with what I want, with my vision, and letting that alignment guide me instead of fear. I just want you to know that you don't have to shrink yourself to be loved. You don't have to abandon yourself to keep the peace. You're allowed to want joy.